The FBI moving forward after bombshell revelations in the Clinton email investigation that could shake up the presidential election just 8 days away from now. Hello, everyone. I'm Heather Nauert. Federal agents have obtained a warrant to begin searching through potentially tens of thousands of newly discovered emails that FBI Director James Comey says may relate to the Clinton case. Now, the emails were found during an unrelated investigation into former Congressman Anthony Weiner, who's accused of sexting with a minor. Weiner's estranged wife, Huma Abedin, is Clinton's top aide. Catherine Herridge will be with us in a minute to talk about what was found on that computer. But in the meantime, let's talk about the Clinton campaign scrambling to recover from the FBI bombshell and then going on the offensive against FBI Director James Comey. Listen.
It's pretty strange to put something like that out with such little information right before an election. In fact, it's not just strange, it's unprecedented, and it is deeply troubling because voters deserve to get full and complete facts.
Full and complete facts, she says. We are waiting to hear from her live in a short while. But in the meantime, Jennifer Griffin, she's following the campaign. She's live on the ground in Cincinnati, Ohio. Jennifer, we've been watching for sightings of Huma Abedin today. Nowhere to be found as of yet. A noticeable person not on the campaign trail. What's the mood of the campaign today?
Well, the mood of the campaign all weekend is that the campaign has been on its heels since that stunning announcement by the FBI director on Friday. They have been trying to play catch up ever since. Some of the polls now show not only a tightening, but even a slippage, so that Hillary Clinton in certain key battleground states is really slipping in some of those states. In fact, here in Ohio, the Real Clear Politics average shows that she is down by 1.3%. Donald Trump ahead here in Ohio. What is notable is she will be speaking in Ohio at Kent State not long from now. She'll be taking the stage introduced by a nuclear missileer, a former Air Force officer who used to be in charge of the nuclear missiles here in this country. He has come out and said that he does not believe Donald Trump is fit to be president. You will expect to hear more about that from Hillary Clinton today. We're told that she will not address the FBI Director James Comey directly today. We also are told by reporters on board her plane that Huma Abedin is not traveling with her today. She did not travel with her this weekend down to Florida, where Hillary Clinton was at several Get Out the Vote events across that key state of Florida. So we don't know much at this point about what the Clinton campaign is doing and what the interaction with the FBI is at this point. What we do know is that top Democrats on the Hill have come out and criticized Comey, saying that he is influencing an election that is just 8 days away. Harry Reid being the most senior of those Democrats, he sent a letter to Comey accusing him, in effect, of breaking the law. He said that he was in violation, perhaps, of the Hatch Act. So very strong words from some of the same Democrats who had full praise for Comey back in July.
Yes,
back to you,
certainly.
Heather.
And then the White House just addressed that in its daily press conference a short while ago. So we'll bring folks to that interesting development in just a little bit. Jennifer Griffin, live for us in Ohio. Jennifer, thank you. Well, back to that search warrant to begin searching through potentially tens of thousands, if not more, newly discovered emails that FBI Director James Comey says may relate to the Clinton case. Let's check in with Catherine Herridge in Washington. She's been breaking this down over the weekend. Catherine, so there's a lot of information contained in these emails. Do we know anything about the content of these emails yet?
Well, I'm going to get to that just in 1 second, Heather. I just wanted to begin with the comments we had a short time ago from the White House spokesman, where he said publicly for the first time, addressing the letter from Friday, that the president does not believe Director Comey is trying to intentionally influence the election.
I'll neither defend nor criticize what Director Comey has decided to communicate to the public about this investigation.
Also, former Attorney General Eric Holder has written in the Washington Post saying Comey did make an error in his judgment, and one with political consequences, that breaches a long-standing principle that investigations should not be announced 6 weeks before an election. A senior Democrat this morning went further.
I agree with Eric Holder. I think this was a very serious error in judgment by the director. You don't talk about an investigation this close to an election. That's a very sound policy of the Department of Justice. You don't want to appear to be putting your hand on the scale. And here he opens up the FBI to the accusation that is trying to have an impact on the outcome.
For the FBI's part, law enforcement sources close to the director have told Fox News that he felt he really had no choice because of the sheer volume of the records and because of that pledge he made under oath in the summer that if there was new evidence that appeared to be of significance, he would revisit the case. Heather.
Catherine, certainly significant that the White House is saying one thing about Comey's intentions and that top Democrats are saying another. We're going to talk to some folks later on in the show about that. Yeah. But I want to get back to that point we had touched on earlier, and that is what actually is contained on Anthony Weiner's laptop. Do we know anything about that?
A government source told Fox News that the metadata on Anthony Weiner's computer had positive hits for emails from the Clinton server as well as government records from the State Department. Metadata is like the address on a letter. You can see who it's to and who it's from, but you can't read the content. Now that they've got this warrant, this will allow FBI investigators to move beyond the metadata and to search Weiner's computer and read the content of those messages. A source close to Anthony Weiner's legal team tells Brett Baer that it seems the laptop was used to back up his estranged wife's smartphone contacts, and in the process it backed up all of the emails as well, probably ending about 3 to 4 years ago, but still covering this important time period when Huma Abedin was at the State Department with then Secretary Hillary Clinton. On a special report last night, the Republican chairman of the Benghazi Committee, whose investigators first uncovered the use of this personal account, said the director is being unfairly targeted by Democrats.
Jim Comey's not responsible for a single one of the facts at hand. He didn't tell her to use a private server. He didn't tell Uma not to turn over all of her devices. And God knows he didn't tell Anthony Weiner to send sexually explicit texts to allegedly underage people.
FBI senior leadership here in Washington, including the director and his deputy, Andrew McCabe, first learned about the laptop and these messages in early October, though it's not clear to us at this point whether there was any unnecessary delay in handling those records, Heather.
Hey, Catherine, just quickly, do we know anything about, would we know at this point if there had been any attempts to delete information from that laptop?
You know, that's a great question. From a forensic point of view, you would have the ability to see if there were deletions on the laptop. But my understanding at this point is that you can't just open up the computer and determine how many records are relevant to the Clinton case. They have to build out basically a computer program so that they can isolate the records that would be of interest to them. And this is, I'm not a computer tech person, despite my efforts to appear as one. But
Amen.
This is, you know, this is a process in itself to design the program that takes, you know, days. They are not physically looking at these records yet. They've got to develop the program, which is what they're doing now.
To be continued. Catherine Herridge, thanks for all the great work down in Washington, as always. Well, the latest revelations feeding into the perception that Clinton can't be trusted. A recent Fox News poll taken before the FBI announcement showing a record low 30% of likely voters believe that Clinton is honest and trustworthy. Donald Trump just slightly better at 34%. Chris Stirewalt is Fox News digital politics editor and co-host of the awesome news show, Perino and Stirewalt. I'll tell you what. Hi there. Does it even matter, those numbers at this point?
Well, I mean, that's like, would you rather eat a dead raccoon or a horse apple?
Yeah.
I mean, you're
Nobody
all
trusts either candidate.
You're all the way down at the bottom there. And the only people, by the way, that are saying yes there are the hardest of hard partisans. That's when you get down to the bottom end of people who would always trust a Democrat if asked and would always trust a Republican.
I want to ask you about this. The Clinton campaign and its surrogates have been blaming James Comey for this, saying that he's being political, he's trying to influence the election. How will that message go over among voters?
Well, look, when Republicans attacked Comey this summer, it was probably helpful with their base, as they said, and Donald Trump used to say, the system is rigged. I suppose he still says the system is rigged, but the system's rigged. They're conspiring against you. This is evidence of it. Now Hillary Clinton gets a chance to do the same thing.
Will it work, though?
Well, it'll work. I mean, look, we have very scant polling data since this came out on Friday. It's basically in the form of a Washington Post, ABC News poll.
Yeah, let's take a look at that right now, because that was done Wednesday through Saturday, 46-45. So close.
It's so close, but But within that poll, we learned something, which is, and by the way, the race was already getting closer. Last week, the race tightened up because the partisans were coming home. But what we see in this is...
Because of Obamacare, Republicans were starting to go back?
Because it's almost November. That's
okay.
what happens every time. When you get down to the end, the partisans who said, well, I'm not sure about my guy, come home. And it happens every time. And we were seeing the tightening of the race as it came in. And we were seeing it also revert to form, which is Hillary Clinton having a small but fairly durable lead. What we see now is that for Republicans, this was energizing. But for Democrats, it's energizing, too, because Hillary Clinton is telling them what Donald Trump used to say, which is it's rigged and it's rigged against us.
Yeah, okay, we'll see if it works on her. Two major stories converging, and that is WikiLeaks, and we'll talk about that one later. And then this FBI investigation. A whole lot of incoming that voters have to take in. Is there any evidence that voters are just not able to take it all in yet because it's just too much information?
I thank God that the American people are in large part able to ignore the doings of politicians most of the times. And we have a job, which is to cull out what's really important from what's not really important. And WikiLeaks, I think the Kremlin has made a mistake. And I think that they have made a mistake that if they were trying to hurt Hillary Clinton, they bring out so much so often, and it comes out through Assange all the time, that it gets lost to a certain degree. They would have probably been better off to pick them and hit them.
Story, a really important story, but I wonder if that just gets lost in the entire mix right now.
It's a lot of noise.
Especially for those people who are not the political hacks who live and breathe this stuff all the time.
Well, I mean, we don't all have to be hacks. That seems like a rather pejorative term.
Well, somebody who really loves politics as much as the great Chris Stirewalt does. Chris Stirewalt, thanks a lot. We'll talk to you again real soon. Your expertise. Well, a former Clinton surrogate is out of a job at another news network after revelations in the latest WikiLeaks dump. So what else is today's batch of campaign emails? We'll tell you about that, as Chris and I just talked about. Plus, without the organization Judicial Watch, there would be no Clinton email scandal. Now they're pushing to find out what happened on the runway meeting. Do you remember that one in Phoenix, Arizona? Between former President Bill Clinton and the Attorney General, just a week before the FBI decided not to prosecute Hillary. The head of Judicial Watch, he's been following the Clintons closely for years. He joins me next.